The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join hosts Trevor Curran and Joseph Christina as they chat about the art and business of photography.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 146. I'm Joseph Christina. On last week's episode, we talked about drones flying over Harlem, Getty dumps Flickr, Sigma to pay Nikon $14.5 million for patent infringement, and Calumet Photographic bankrupt after 75 years in business. If you haven't watched last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, in iTunes, listen with the popular Stitcher, TuneIn, or Xbox Music app, or watch in HD on TiVo. Sorry guys, we are back, episode 146. We have a lot of stuff to cover this week, but before we do so, we have a couple of emails, a couple of comments that came from our listeners. So we want to kind of jump into those. So number one, from Bob. He spoke about, well, he was looking for a lens that I talked about last week, and it was a Canon lens. It was a 200 to 400 with a built-in teleconverter, an extender. So he wasn't able to find it, and he kind of called me out on it and said, where is it? Where is it? I can't find it. Well, the lens is out there, but the price was completely off. I was looking at the price from one lens, and I mixed it up with this one. Anyways, the amount that I quoted was like $1,700, and the actual price is $12,000. Just a couple of dollars off. Sorry, Bob. But anyways, the lens is available. It is a Canon EF 200 to 400. That's an f4, straight f4 L lens with IS, image stabilization, and it has a built-in extender, a 1.4 teleconverter. All right, so we're going to leave in the show notes this week a link where you can go straight there and check that lens out. But unless you have 12K, that's just burning a hole in your pocket, Bob, you might not want to grab this one. It looks like it's a great lens, especially if you're like a sports photographer or whatnot. I love the idea of the built-in extender, but 12K, it's a lot of money. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. You let us know. Send us a comment if you ended up buying that lens or not. Anyways, like I said, we'll put it in the show notes. You'll be able to just click on the link and get straight over there. Next, last week, I asked that anyone that has, let's say, direct knowledge with Calumet that went out of business, whereas you have, let's say, a piece of equipment that you have out that's rental, we were like, well, what are you going to do with it, guys? What can you do with it? Where is it going to go? Well, who do you give it to, right? Their Twitter is down. Their email is down. Their website is down. All phone numbers basically come up disconnected. What do you do? So a really nice guy, his name is Ed, and I don't want to botch the name, but I'll do my best, Krisiak. Ed Krisiak. If I did, I'm sorry, Ed. Anyways, he is out of PA, I believe, Pennsylvania, Philly area, and he found a Calumet store that had a sign on it. Thank you. So this sign basically says, for deliveries or rental returns, please call. Here you go. 215-432-2234. Once again, that's 215-432-2234. Don't panic. We're going to go ahead and put that in the show notes so that you'll have it no matter what. I'm going to make sure we write it down and we get that into the show notes. Now, the reason I say that is maybe this is specific to Pennsylvania area. I don't know. But the bottom line is there's no other number out there that we can find. There's no website, no way of contacting them. And I tell you what, guys, if you have a piece of equipment out there, it's a $5,000 lens or whatnot, and all of a sudden you get a call in a month from now from a creditor saying like, hey, by the way, we see that you have a lens that you did not return to Calumet. They're out of business, but right now we're handling all of we're their creditor or whatever. So one way or another, you're going to have to give this back, and you don't want that on your credit. So if you want to go and call somebody, even if this is not the number for you in your local area, call it anyways. Once again, 215-432-2234. Thanks a lot, Ed. We really appreciate it. Love the fans out there. You are so helpful. And I mean, we just absolutely adore you guys. So moving forward, Nikon. You know, Nikon's been having not a good time of it this year. We've talked about them in the past. You know, we started out with the D600, and then we went from the D600 problems. It migrated into, well, we uncovered a slip, a receipt that showed someone that had a D600, returned it to Nikon, and Nikon sent them a D610. So we're like, wow, that sounds interesting, guys, right? You have a 600, maybe you'll be able to get a 610 out of it, because we know that Nikon has a problem with their sensor and spots and grease on the sensor and whatnot. Anyways, then we move forward in time and we said, well, now we found that no, you're not going to get a 610 yet, but what Nikon went to press with is, yes, we found that there is a problem with our sensor, blah, blah, blah. This is from 2 or 3 weeks ago. You can go back in the show, the 2 or 3 shows ago. We talked about it, and we said we quoted exactly what they said, basically saying, hey, we screwed up. The sensors are faulty. We're going to replace the sensor and anything with the sensor, having to do with the sensor, sealing, or who knows why dirt is getting in there, or what the problem is. But we're going to do this free of charge. That's all you do is you send it to the service center. We're going to send you even a ticket to send it to us. So you can just slap it in a box and off it goes to us for free to send it to us, and free to get it back. So it's absolutely no cost to you. And we're going to fix your Nikon D600. Well, I don't know. Chinese government, they didn't get this memo or something. And just this week, or a couple of days ago, what was unearthed was not that 600 to 610. Now, what they found is basically a hidden camera footage of one of the local service centers over there in China, where the people were looking at the D600 and telling the customer that's bringing it in, oh, well, you know, it looks like there's smudges on the sensor and there's dust and whatnot. That's probably what these black spots are. And basically pilot error, right, guys? It's your fault. We'll clean it for you, but maybe we'll charge you or whatever. Well, the government was not having it. They looked at the footage and they're like, Nikon, no, this isn't happening. We don't like the way you're handling this. And guess what? As of today, you will no longer sell the D600 anywhere in China. Can you believe that? This is done. As of like 2 days ago, when you hear the show, they cannot sell the D600 into China. Period. End of story. Government said so. So what does that mean for the US? Chances are it's going to be the same thing. If I was a seller of cameras, I see the Chinese government no longer allows them to sell that camera in their country, I wouldn't accept it either. I would say, no, sorry. If you want to send us some 610s and replacements to the 600s that we have sitting here, by all means do so, but I don't want any of your 600s. Thank you. So going all the way back to all those shows ago when we said you guys with the D600s might end up getting D610s not too long from now, we might end up being right. I don't know. You know, the jury's still out. But nonetheless, not good news for Nikon. Their stock fell again on this news. It's like 1,700 yen, which is like 1.7, I think it's like 1.7%. And year to date, they are down 14%, Nikon. And honestly, I'm a Canon shooter forever, but I shoot a lot of other stuff. I shoot Hassies, I shoot anything. It just depends on what the project is. But I don't want to see Nikon falter, because even though I shoot Canon, that doesn't help the market at all. I've always said this in the past. Nikon and Canon are two legs on one body. One steps forward, the next one steps, the next one steps, and the next one steps. If one was to step twice, it would fall over, right? They just can't do it. That's just how the business, that's how the photographic camera market works. So we want Nikon to keep making these steps forward so that we get this innovative product. Innovation comes from this multitude of people in the market coming up with new ideas. That's why we always love Samsung, because they're not following the norm. They're doing something outside of the box all the time. So anyways, Nikon, I hope things get better for you. I think you guys are going to be spending a lot of money very soon. But you're just going to have to suck it up, and hopefully the engineers and whatnot that are coming out with the new cameras are going to not let something like this happen in the future. That's all that you can do. Correct this problem, and then going forward, and don't let this problem happen again. Anyways, guys, we got a lot more for you coming up. So before we get into it, let's go ahead and hear from one of our sponsors.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer, and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
So, all right, guys, we are back. So back to Nikon. This time, it's not really Nikon's fault, but if you have a Nikon D4S and you use Lexar cards, I love Lexar. I think they make a great card. I use, of course, SanDisk like a lot of us do, but I do like the Lexar cards also because they're really fast. They make a really good fast card that's reliable. So if you have a 400X or a 1000X Lexar card and you're having problems with your D4S, chances it's not you, it's not your Nikon, it is the Lexar card. There's a problem with it. There's a problem with the compatibility between the Lexar 400 and the 1000s into that Nikon D4S. So if you look at that card and you look at the side and you see that serial number, if the last 6 digits of the serial number are the number 8 BAFBE or the number 8 DCB61, don't get panicky here. We'll put it into the show notes. If you have either one of those, if you send that into Lexar, they're going to send you new cards. Those 2 serial numbers are affected, where they will not work with the Nikon D4S. So keep that in mind. Go into the show notes, see if you have those, and if you have them, they'll be happy to replace them for you. Moving forward, Samsung. We were just talking about Samsung, how much I know it always seems to be like this love fest because they've just been doing great things, but they released a new camera, and it is a direct competitor to the Nikon One. I'm sorry, Nikon, more problems. So we know if Samsung goes down a certain road and they focus on something, they hit it hard. And once again, they did with this camera. So it's called the Samsung NX Mini. Once again, Samsung NX Mini. It's a direct competitor to the Nikon One. They're both a 1-inch sensor camera. They're both ILCs, interchangeable lens type of cameras. It's very interesting. I like this one a lot. It has a lot of the cool things that we've seen in the past that we like about these, let's say, non-major manufacturer like a Canon, Nikon, Sony type of camera. So what they did here is they have that 1-inch sensor. They're creating 20 megapixel, 20.5 megapixel images with it. They have this absolutely Samsung beautiful 3-inch monitor tilt screen, but that is a touch screen on the back that you can tilt all the way back so it's facing you, which is kind of crazy. It's just huge and it's just brilliant, absolutely beautiful. It does full HD, 1080p, just like most. It does 60 frames per second. Has built-in Wi-Fi as well as NFC. If you guys haven't heard any of our shows regarding NFC, take a listen. That NFC is like the future. I really believe it. So anyways, it does have Wi-Fi and NFC built in. It shoots 6 frames per second. That's raw. 6 raw frames per second, which is nice. That's not bad. For a small camera like this, it's tiny. It does extended ISO up to 25,600. So I'm going to say that it'll probably do good in low light. That's 640, 800, maybe even 1250 ISO, somewhere around there, and probably do a good job at it. What I do like about this, and once again, they are just thinking. They are thinking. They have a lens, a kit lens, that is a 9 to 27 millimeter kit lens. It is 3.5 to 5.6 f-stop, right? That's the meandering. I don't like that. I wish it was a 4.0 or a 2.8 or whatever, but nonetheless, they did get this right. It's, once again, a 9 to 27 lens. What does that convert to? You guys check it out. 24 to 70 millimeter. Now, anyone worth their weight in salt, any pro-am, they know what is the major professional bread and butter lens is a 24 to 70 or a 70 to 200. A 24 to 70 is the absolute. I mean, I have that strapped on all of the 5Ds all the time. I love that lens. It's a perfect portrait lens, and you can go wide enough to do full body or do, let's say, 4 or 5 people in a shot without having to go all the way back to China to take the picture. It is perfect. Now, did they do it haphazardly? This 9 to 27, where they end up with that 24 to 70 millimeter? I don't know. But since it's Samsung, I'm going to guess they didn't just come up with this. They did it on purpose. And this is the stuff that Samsung does that I talk about all the time. They just get it. They get it, and they know how to market. They really know how to market. They know what people are looking for, and they try to give it to them. So anyways, coming out April, so it's right around the corner. You're looking at $549. Pretty cheap. Take a look at it. Once again, it's a direct competitor to the Nikon One and is the Samsung NX Mini. So more of this Samsung love fest. I hate it, but that's just the way it is for this week. So we know that whenever Samsung puts out a new ad spot, let's say bashing Apple, they do a good job at it, right, guys? They do a good job. It's very thoughtful. The ad agency that they're using that put these things together are just stellar. They just really get it. They hit all the little vibes, the little chords that really make people uneasy and be like, oh, wow, okay, I get it. Well, they did the same thing this week. So they come up with an ad that doesn't just bash Apple. It bashes the iPad. It bashes the Microsoft Surface. It bashes the Kindle. Everyone. And they do it so thoughtfully and provocatively. I'm going to play this clip for you so you can see it, and we'll talk about it in just a second.
Hello, gentlemen. Andrew, could you send me the revised deck, please?
Revised deck.
I can do that.
Your Samsung can do that? Mm-hmm. Mine can't do 2 things at once.
Huh.
Can you move your laptop a little bit?
It's actually a tablet, Surface.
Well, it does have a keyboard and a battery dock.
And a mouse.
This book makes no sense.
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
Well, maybe we can look her up on YouTube.
It can do that?
Yeah.
My Kindle can't get that app.
Well, what can it do?
Books.
So your Samsung looks better than my iPad because it's got more pixels.
Right.
But mine's got the Retina thingy.
The next big thing is here. Do more on the new multitasking Galaxy Pro Series tablets.
So, all right, guys, what'd you think? You like it? I like it. I think it's funny. I love dry humor. I love that sarcastic nature of the people in the ad spot. It's one of those thoughtful, not screaming in your face car commercial type of thing. It's very thoughtful and subdued and dry and just sarcastic, and I just love it. Absolutely love it. It's funny, simply funny. Anyways, if you haven't seen it online yet, or if you haven't seen it on TV, you probably will very soon. So you can say you've seen it here first. Moving forward, Oppo, something like this. I don't know what the name of this camera phone is, but I know that it's called a Find 7. It's a replacement of a Find 5. So this new Find 7, it is touted as the first phone that will actually shoot a 50 megapixel image. So we're like, wow, 50 megapixel on a phone. That's kind of scary, right? As photographers. Well, it does it, and it does a pretty good job at it too. But how does it do it? How can it do it? We know the sensors are just microscopic, right? They're so small. What it's doing, which is really interesting, what it's doing is it's all software trickery, right? It is stitching images together, is how it comes up with this 50 megapixel image. But how it does it is it takes 10 photographs instantaneously, just like that, done, 10. So there's almost no movement. And what it does is it picks 4 of the best out of those 10 frames and then stitches those 4 together. Those are 13 megapixels approximately each. And it will stitch all 4 together to create this 50 megapixel image. And you say, well, does it look good? You know, what does it look like? You know, it looks pretty damn good. I don't know. I mean, if you took this 50 megapixel image, and we've seen some representations of it, and you took the 50 megapixel and dropped it down to 25 megapixels to really crush it down just a little bit, then go and throw a little bit of noise reduction on it, I swear the image is really pretty damn good. I don't even know. It's just, it's like, I don't know how they can actually obtain this and stitch it inside the camera phone. Well, after reading through it and the specs, I figured out how they do it. Well, this thing has got a screaming fast 2.5 gigahertz processor, Snapdragon processor in it, and it's got 3 gigabytes of RAM that it has access to just to do all this stuff. That's cool. I mean, that's just neat. So it also does 4K video on the phone at 30 frames per second. It does slow motion at 100 frames per second. It does long exposures of half a minute. It does HDR. Check it out. HDR GIFs from the raw images. So, and it's huge. It's 5.5 inches long. Anyways, $600. It's called the Find 7. What I like about it is it goes back to a couple of weeks ago when we said Apple is hiring in, I don't know, 20 plus photographic people that are to be working on the Apple sensor for their iPhone and the software for the iPhone and everything having to do with photography on that iPhone. They're hiring in these people. So you know the new iPhone 6 or whatever they call it is going to have a better camera in it, because we know that from a 4S to the 5 was not that much of an improvement. We know from a 5 to a 5S is negligible at best between the two on the camera side. You know that they're going to have to step up their game, because you see these camera phones now at 50 megapixels, and they're stitching these things together using Android 4.3 as, you know, as a base client, as their OS. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. So watch out for that. Moving on. We love Kickstarter. You know that Trevor and myself, we're always kind of combing the web for type of Kickstarter or anything that's like brand new coming out in the photographic industry, because it's intriguing, it's interesting, just love it. Well, new Kickstarter comes out, and it's called LifePrint. And what it is kind of cool. It is a printer for, let's say, your camera phone or for your camera. And what it is, it's a really tiny micro printer. It prints 4x3 photos. And how it does it is it makes, like, I guess it has Wi-Fi built into it and cell. So you could connect with this printer from anywhere in the world, okay, and print to it. What's interesting is the software that's associated with it allows you to bring in family members into your network, so to speak, and allow them to print or send images to this printer also. So, you know, Aunt Betty in Georgia just had this big peach festival, and she wants to send, you know, the grandkids the picture of this basket of peaches. Well, she can do that right from her phone straight to your printer and print it out right there on the spot. Very interesting. What I like is it is a dye sub printer. No ink involved. Dye sub. So I'm a fan of dye subs, but they are expensive, as we know. Now, the cost on these on printing is not cheap. It will be, for the refill for this, it does 10, I think it holds like 10 pictures at a time. The refills are $30, and that $30 gets you 20 prints. Now remember, these prints are 3x4, so they're very small, And do the math, it ends up being about $1.50 a print. Not cheap, but what a cool thing to have for the family, where family members, they can be discerning and not really send everything. But if they do send a lot, what's cool is the application allows you to print what you want. So it's not like a fax machine where, your aunt is sending you over every single image that came from this Peach Fest, but maybe one of them you really like and you say, this is the one that I want to print. And then that's the one that it prints. So the software behind it is good also. The application is going to be both iOS and Android is what they say. And it will have some type of editing software in there to put borders and fun stuff like text and run a couple of filters over the images too, which we like, and everyone likes that. So it's going to be a $100 pledge for that. And they're getting close. They're up there. I don't know if the 60, 70,000, 80,000 so far. And I think it's about a month left. So in the show notes, we're going to give you a link. Go there, check it out. If you're interested, pledge your $100 and you'll get one of these when the Kickstarter is over. I like it. And what I do like also is the idea of printing your images. We've talked in the past about this. A photograph is not a photograph until it's printed. Photograph, living in the ether someplace is not a picture. If no one can see it, it's not shared with anyone, it might as well not exist. And the industry is understanding this now. These type of things and these people here get it. This LifePrint, they get it. Because we now are seeing that there are stores that are coming out in the mall. There's kiosks that are coming out that you can bring your camera phone or your small cameras and print those images, the selected images that you want, immediately there. What does that mean? This is where things are going right now. People are kind of sick of having 3,000 pictures on their phone and they don't get to see any of them. You can go and kind of scroll through them yourself, but if you want to share them with someone, you can't do it. What a great device this is. You just finished, hanging out with a bunch of people. You take a picture, then you hit print, it immediately pops out and you hand it to them. I love that. And I think that is really where things are going. I think you're going to start seeing more cameras like the old Polaroids, where you take a digital shot. It keeps the digital file so you can use it later, but it also makes a small print through a small, tiny dye sub printer. I think that's where we're going to go. Not that long, down the road. I can see these things all sitting all over tables during a wedding. And now, the groom and bride say, take as many pictures as the cameras have in them. Use all of them up because we want them. You take the pictures and boom, pops the image and you can share it with the whole table. They can take it or they can give them to the bride and groom. I love that. It's the whole idea of having the cheap camera in the middle of the table. They take all the pictures and then they hand them to the bridegroom and they go and develop them and they find all these funny pictures that people took with these disposable cameras. I think this is kind of where we're going now with these little disposable, let's say, digital cameras. Maybe not so disposable, but at least that you won't be able to print a lot, but some of them will print and then the rest will be stored internally for later use. Anyways, kudos to you guys over there at LifePrint. I like it. I like it a lot. And it's my hope that you guys make enough money to be able to go forward with this project. I think it's great. Anyways, we are done for the week. We don't want to go past that 30-minute. We probably did already. I'm trying to keep them down to 30, not to get too long. But anyways, if you want to get a hold of myself or Trevor Current, you can do so through Twitter. You can get a hold of Trevor. That's at Trevor Current. You can get a hold of me at Joseph Christina, and that is Christina without an H. You can get all the show notes from this episode by visiting digitalphotographycafe.com/146. And don't forget to send your questions and comments to comments at digitalphotographycafe.com or simply call 440-345-6707. Once again, that's 440-345-6707, and we will see you next week.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe show with Trevor Current and Joseph Christina. Be sure to subscribe to the show for free in iTunes or through RSS. You can also listen on Stitcher and TuneIn Radio and watch in HD on TiVo. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your hosts.